Hello guys, this is Joana Saahirah with a bonus video offered with our online course, How to Create Your First Egyptian Dance Choreography. I decided to call the cooking class to this video. It's an image that I've used in the class number 1 of this course, available at Joana Saahirah's online dance school. And it gives you an idea of how to use Egyptian dance technique, movements, steps, knowledge, and actually express yourself through that technique. Why a cooking class? Because in a cooking class or session, you start with picking the ingredients. As I mentioned in this class number 1 of this course, choreographing starts with knowing what you have to work with. If I'm learning a new language, and Egyptian dance is a language, I have to know first the ABC. The basic movements, the basic core of the dance. With those basic movements, I start to build more complex movements, variations of those movements. With those variations and those basic movements, I start to build simple phrases. And with those simple phrases, I start to build more complex phrases, and I start to connect those phrases in a way that actually ends up telling a story. So it's interesting if you look at Egyptian dance as a language and as a cooking class or session. Which ingredients do you have? Which movements, which dance steps do you know? What have you been taught? What are your resources in terms of what your teachers taught you and the skills that you've developed? Your musicality, your character, your taste, your charisma, your personal way of listening to the music and using the things that you've been taught. Those are your resources. So when you go into the kitchen, let's say, what you do is you collect your ingredients, you collect your resources. Do you have a stove? Do you have an oven? Do you have utensils to cut your ingredients? Which ingredients do you have? Perhaps you only have tomatoes and potatoes, 2 movements. How can you work with those 2 movements? How can you use those 2 movements? Perhaps you have more ingredients. You have learned many different movements and you have a lot to choose from. So you will cook using what you have, ingredients that you have. Once you see what you have, which movements, which skills you have developed, you're going to start seasoning. You're going to add flavor. Flavor is connected with the music in terms of dance. What kind of music is this? What kind of expression of storyline, if there is a storyline? What kind of posture, what kind of move, what kind of feeling is this music asking me for? So this is the seasoning. It's the flavor, it's the salt, the spices, the stuff that I'm going to add to my ingredients, which are the movements, and so forth. When you choreograph or when you improvise, what you do, I repeat, is using the ingredients that you have. If you are not aware of what you know, this job is way harder. This is the reason why in class number 1 of this new course, I asked the students to do a list of the movements, the dance vocabulary, the ingredients that we worked on the class. So they're going to write down the ingredients and see, what can I do with this? What can I cook with this? And of course, be creative. So aside from gathering your bearings and knowing exactly what you have to work with, you also have to trust your own creativity. You have to trust that if you only have 2 ingredients or 3, you will have to make it enough. You will have to make something tasty and meaningful out of it. You will have to know that even if you have a lot of ingredients, a lot of movements, you don't have to use everything. This is something I learned from the master of choreography and father of Egyptian folklore, Breda, with whom I had the pleasure of studying and working as choreographer and teaching assistant for many years. He taught me that quantity is not necessarily quality. So even if you have a lot of ingredients, a lot of knowledge, a lot of movement, a lot of dance vocabulary, a lot of skills developed, it doesn't mean you're using them all. You pick which ingredients you're going to use. If I'm going to cook a dessert, I will not use salt just because I have salt. Yeah. If I'm going to cook a curry, I will not use sugar just because I have sugar. For each thing, its own ingredients, its own flavor. I don't have to use everything that I have. Imagine that you are choreographing a ballady piece. Ballady is a very specific style. It's the original Rakshaki, the unadulterated, unpolished Rakshaki. There's a lot of ingredients I will not use there because of the style of music. A lot of arm movements, perhaps, a lot of torso movements I would use in a modern Oriental piece, I will not use in a ballady. The same thing for Egyptian folklore. Imagine that I am dancing a Saidi piece. There's a lot of ingredients from Oriental that I will not use because Saidi is a different language, is a different dish, it's different ingredients. Aside from knowing which ingredients you have, you also have to know when to use them and where to use them, depending on the music, depending on the style. Last but not least, you have to bring the expression to the ingredients. You have to bring the feeling, the expression, the flavor to the ingredients, to the movements. It's not enough to gather smart movements together. It's not enough to gather or to stitch interesting movements. It's important to fill them with meaning. This is something I've been teaching forever around the world and in my school. It is so important, guys, that you understand movement per se is neutral. It's like words, yeah? It's like a potato. A potato is not a stew, it's the potato. What makes it a stew, we go back to the kitchen, is the flavor I add, is the cooking, is what I make of the potato. So the movements are exactly the same. What gives them flavor, what gives them meaning, is the meaning and the flavor you give to them. A movement per se is neutral, is empty, is a language, is a word that exists for you to bring it to life. So aside from choosing the ingredients you have to work with and paying attention to the music so that you don't overdo and you don't use ingredients that don't belong to that music, what you do is also you bring flavor to your movements. You bring the seasoning, you bring the spices, you bring the herbs, you bring all that personal touch that only you can give to a choreography or to an improvisation. Last but not the least for this video, what I want you to do when you choreograph or also when you improvise is try new things. In this first class, what I did was asking the dancers to destroy the dance combination I taught them. I asked them to learn the dance combination, then destroy it. Destroy it in the sense of taking movements out and placing them in different places. Yeah, taking a movement from the middle of the dance combination and putting it in the end, or taking a movement from the end and putting it in the beginning, or skipping movements. I actually skipped movements on purpose during the class to show them that there are many ways of working with ingredients and many ways of working with the choreography. It all boils down to what you know and what you can do with what you know. I've mentioned this many times in different settings. It is not so much the amount of information and education that you have, but how much can you do with that information and that education. I can know a lot about Egyptian dance and be totally unable to dance. I can know a lot about Egyptian music and not be able to do anything interesting with it. So what you know does not define you as a dancer or as a person. What you do with what you know defines you as a dancer and as a person. It's very important that you have that clear and that you are not afraid to make mistakes. This is another point I've mentioned many times because I see it's such a plague. You know, we're all so obsessed with doing things right. And that's normal. We want to do things right. It's normal, but you cannot do everything right all the time. If you're going to go out of your comfort zone and choreograph a new piece or improvise a new piece and you want to grow as a dancer, you will make mistakes. You will make choices that are not the most interesting at the moment, or you will make choices that you will not like, even if they're interesting. Rest assured, there will be mistakes. If you avoid doing mistakes, you avoid doing interesting things as well. So I want also to bring the importance of the mistake to the table and allowing yourself, you know, this is an invitation for you to allow yourself to make mistakes and then correct them, you know, and improve from there. Yeah. Another tip that I've learned from Mahmoud Breda has to do with the mistakes and has to do with the humbleness of doing things that perhaps are not the most interesting, you know. as I was working with Mahmoud Reda and as I choreographed side by side with him, which was obviously one of the biggest honors of my life as a dancer and as a person, because Mahmoud Reda was always an absolute angel to me, my best friend, my grandfather, my biggest supporter, etc., many etc. So as I watched him choreograph, I was always surprised, sometimes even shocked, at how simple his choreographic process was. I was obsessed with nailing it on the first try. So if I was choreographing a piece, I wanted to make it perfect right there. I would not leave the studio until I had it perfect, at least perfect for me in that moment. Mahmoud did not work like that. He was very down to earth and very simple and very humble. He would often tell me, I'm done for today, even if I'm not satisfied with the results. I will come back to it tomorrow and eventually improve it. He was totally undisturbed when he came out with a phrase that was not his best phrase. I'm talking about dance phrase, of course. He was totally undisturbed when he worked for hours on a choreography and he knew that he would have to redo the whole thing, that it was not done, that it was not interesting enough. He was very, very in peace with it. Obviously, one of the reasons because Mahmoud Reda choreographed thousands of pieces for the Reda troupe, the iconic Reda troupe. So practice and experience somehow gives you a self-confidence and a tranquility that a beginner at the time, I was beginning to perform in Cairo, so a beginner will not have that tranquility. But on another level, it's really a fact that you need to mature as a person in order to mature as a dancer and a choreographer. So this tranquility, this humbleness to accept that tomorrow I'll do better, but it's done. I get into my dance studio and I do the best that I can for now, and then I can redo, I can correct, I can start all over again. That kind of maturity that I witnessed with Mahmoud Reda many, many times is something that you gain with time, and it's something that you can start doing right now. So instead of pressuring yourself to make it perfect, which actually backfires because many dancers don't even start because of this. They're so afraid of not making it perfect. They're so afraid of not making something interesting. They don't even start. So they don't do it at all. Okay, so you have to watch out for this. Instead of obsessing about this nailing it and perfection thing, just do your best today. And tomorrow you can improve it. You can redo. You can change the movements, you can change stuff, you can start all over again, you can drop what you did and start all over again, but the job that you did is done at some levels, conscious level, unconscious level, so you did something, even if you don't use it. Choreographing, like cooking, is also about love. So if you don't love what you do, it's not gonna work. You can have the best ingredients, okay? You can have all the ingredients in the world, you can have all the movements in the world, you can have all the technique, all the knowledge. If you don't love the process of cooking, the process of choreographing, the process of using those ingredients, if you're not happy, if you're not enjoying yourself while doing it, it's not gonna work. So this is the last ingredient for a good choreography, is the love, is the excitement, is the passion. I hope this video has enlightened you about the art of choreography and how we learn Egyptian dance as a language, coming from the ABC until the point that we're actually speaking something, we're telling stories. I hope this introduces a few points that are going to help you, I hope, in your learning process and in the adventure of starting to choreograph your own stuff, even if you don't use the choreography. This is also something I learned from Mahmoud. Even if you don't use your choreographies, choreographing is a great exercise for dancers. So go ahead, do it, have fun, and I will see you soon around the world and at Joana Saahirah Online Dance School. I love you guys. Mwah.